Hello, my name is Jamina Watstein, and I want to thank you for being here today. I will be presenting on the characteristics of and challenges faced by third culture kids and how school counselors can support their needs. Globalism has caused an increase in immigration, international business, and military placement, resulting in families relocating to other countries around the globe, and this has caused the number of third culture kids in schools to rise. Although there are benefits to living overseas and third culture kids' experiences result in unique characteristics, there are also challenges that they have to face, and this makes their progression through the stages of personal and cultural identity development more difficult than for a monoculture kid. Due to the increased amount of international mobility resulting in people living outside of their passport country, the population of the United States citizens living abroad has grown dramatically over the last 50 years, with over 900,000 reported in 1960 up to 8 million in 2017. However, those living abroad are not just coming out of the United States. In 2006, there were over 1 million Australians living in other parts of the world, and in 2013, Japan disclosed that over 100 million of its citizens were living abroad. According to the International School Consultancy Research, as of October of this year, there are now 9,200 international schools and over 5 million students attending these schools. And projections have put the number of students in international schools at 10 million by 2026. The term third culture kid was first coined over 40 years ago and is used to define an individual who, having spent a significant part of their developmental years in a culture other than their parents' culture, develops a sense of relationship to all of the cultures while not having full ownership in any. Elements from each culture are incorporated to others of similar experiences. The third culture refers to a created culture that is neither the home culture nor the host culture. It is the culture between cultures. Third culture kids develop unique characteristics because of their cross-cultural living and high mobility experiences during their formative years when the foundation of identity is commonly developed. From these early life experiences, children learn basic cultural rules that give guidelines and principles on values and behavior as they become adults. Third culture kids are flexible, can easily relate to other cultures, have a higher social sensitivity, hold tolerant views, and are good communicators, usually speaking a second language. They also have an increased global understanding and can adapt to new situations quickly as compared to a monoculture kid. The identity development process for third culture kids is unique and involves the formation of personal values, beliefs, and behaviors. It is an unstructured pattern compared to students who spend their developmental years in their home culture. In 1959, E.H. Erickson identified the stages of human development and noted that in our adolescence we seek to answer the question, "Who am I?" This question is often quite hard for a third culture kid to resolve because they are identifying themselves as coming from 3 different cultures and feeling like they don't fit into any. The simple question, "Where are you from?" can be one of the toughest questions for a third culture kid to answer. Some third culture kids say they are at home everywhere and nowhere, and others say they feel at home anywhere. A third culture kid's sense of belonging is 3 times stronger to relationships than to a particular country. The saying, "home is where the heart is," becomes a very real statement for third culture kids. Many adult third culture kids identify with a feeling of rootlessness, claiming that their mobile lifestyle as a third culture kid denied them a sense of home, roots, and stable network of relationships that impact an important dimension of self-definition. This supports the tendency of third culture kids to be future oriented with plans to have international careers and mobile lifestyles with their identities founded in their goals and aspirations rather than their backgrounds. Negative changes occurring during third culture kids' identity development decrease their ability to be aware of the here and now. Their identity is grounded in their future goals and aspirations. For example, their future career path instead of their current surroundings or their backgrounds. Third culture kids often identify themselves in terms of other. When they are abroad, they identify themselves as coming from their passport country, and when they are in their passport country, they identify themselves as coming from overseas. This struggle to identify where one is from leads to a struggle in developing a strong personal identity. Returning home to a third culture kid's passport country can be incredibly difficult because the third culture kid has developed what Ruth Van Ryken terms a hidden diversity. A diversity of experience that shapes a person's life and worldview but is not readily apparent on the outside, such as race, ethnicity, or nationality. Monoculture kids will often feel as if a third culture kid is bragging about their experiences, and so to fit in, a third culture kid tends to hide who they feel they really are in order to fit in. Van Ryken, a second-generation third culture kid herself and leading researcher in the field, said, "I often tried to hide my real self and be what I thought I needed to be to fit in." Another struggle is the perpetual psychological transition, also known as a form of grief, that includes feelings of loss for people, places, pets, and possessions throughout their lives. This grief often goes unnoticed by adults, or adults minimize the seriousness of the child's loss, thus disenfranchising the grieving experience. One of the reasons hidden loss goes unnoticed is socially ambiguous losses are not or cannot be openly mourned. Results of hidden loss may include the child feeling isolated, alone, and depressed, if this goes untreated, later complications in adulthood are not uncommon. Once the decision has been made that a family is going to relocate, a process of change has begun. There are 5 stages to this process: involvement stage, leaving stage, transit stage, entering stage, and the re-engagement stage. In the involvement stage, this begins when the entire family starts preparing and is the point in time that the future becomes the focus. In the leaving stage, both physically and emotionally preparations start, and these preparations should include the acronym RAFT: reconciliation, which means resolving relationships; affirmation is realizing the seriousness of the move; saying farewells; and think destinations, meaning researching and learning about the new culture. In the transit stage, this is the process of actually relocating. Entering means arriving in the new culture and experiencing all the oohs and ahs, and the re-engagement stage is the time when one returns to present-day life, living a day-to-day routine. During this process of change, it is very important that children understand that they are going through a change, and if the stages of the change are shared with the children, they will handle the process better. It is when they do not know what is coming next that anxiety and stress build inside them. Attending a new school in a student's own country is difficult enough, But this challenge increases and becomes more intimidating for students transitioning to a new school in another country, and it is important that a school provides support for this part of the third culture kids' process of change. A school counselor needs to be aware of the negative impact transition may have on the third culture kid and use school-based strategies to support the third culture kid's academic, personal, social, and vocational development because research has found that third culture kids who participate in a school-based transition program tend to be less depressed, anxious, and stressed, and they function at higher levels when compared to those who do not have support. Similar to the stages of relocation, there are 3 transitional stages that a third culture kid goes through when starting a new school in a new culture. These stages are the transition, entering, and leaving stages. In the transition stage, one arrives to a new school for the first time. Entering is adjusting and living in a new school culture, and leaving is preparing to leave their current school and go to a new school. A school counselor can support these transitional changes by hosting a preliminary meeting to share resources available in the school and community, the type of instruction and curriculum used in the school, logistical school procedures such as school policies, attendance, classroom behavior, and extracurricular activities, student and parental expectations, and a connection with the English as a second language teacher being established. After this initial meeting, a fact sheet about the student should be developed that includes where the student has lived previously, the student's likes and dislikes, the student's schedule, and any other academic and/or social concerns that the student and his parents would like to share with teachers. The fact sheet should be approved by the student and the parents and then shared with the teachers and administrators before the student's first day of school. To support the entering stage, including adjusting to and living in the new culture with the goal of giving the student opportunities to embrace the new culture, the second culture, one should keep a connection to the first culture and understand and develop the third culture. These opportunities could include a buddy program, a friendship circle, and cultural field trips that introduce the student to their new surroundings. To help with the leaving stage, if or when a student ends up relocating or moving home, the counselor can support by arranging a meeting with the student and his closest friends or anyone who would like to say goodbye, giving the student a school t-shirt and journal for friends to write farewell notes and contact information, informing teachers of the student's departure, and having a farewell gift for them. Lastly, it's important that the school counselor call the student's parents to say goodbye and encourage them to be aware of the possibility that the student will experience grief as a result of leaving and transitioning, while also encouraging them to allow the student to stay in touch with friends and arrange a future visit if possible. When it is time to attend college, many U.S. third culture kids return to the United States, and while they are American, they might not have the typical American high school experience as other U.S. college students do. But because of their citizenship, third culture kids are not identified as international students. Thus, many colleges and universities overlook the need of third culture kids on their campus. The transition to college can be particularly stressful for third culture kids as they experience typical adjustment issues associated with starting college and culture shock all at the same time. Third culture kids on campuses have been termed hidden immigrants because their citizenship status masks their experiences growing up outside of the United States. Their transition into college includes a reparation into their country of nationality, a navigation through culture shock, and an engagement in developmental tasks common to all emerging adults, such as exploration of purpose, love, work, and worldviews. As U.S. third culture kids prepare to leave for college, one of the most difficult aspects is departing the country and culture in which they have lived before returning to the United States. And many experience a loss of culture as they prepare to leave the culture that they are connected to, but not necessarily a part of, and move home for college. Third culture college students often use the word closure when describing this experience, as if to say that a part of their lives was completely over. During this moving into college stage, students are negotiating these issues of loss of culture and identity, and at the same time renegotiating new identities and cultures. They also feel as if they have to redefine home when they begin college in the U.S. and find strategies to make their new location their home. Ways that higher ed schools can support college students include orientation programs that invite third culture kids to participate in international student orientation programs, inviting third culture kids to participate in programs designed to assist students in adjusting socially and academically to the United States. And academic advisors should also ask questions about a third culture kid's educational history and assist them in understanding academic expectations while also providing information and strategies to help them be successful academically. Administrators should encourage third culture kids to organize face-to-face or virtual support clubs to help discuss issues of loneliness and loss and navigating a new culture, thus normalizing the process and assisting students in developing coping strategies. The last one, this one is my favorite. Provide third culture kids with a host family so that they might feel more comfortable asking questions about the U.S. culture. As we move into the future, research and support for organizations focused on the needs of third culture kids needs to continue. School staff needs to be educated on what a third culture kid is, as well as be provided with tools to help them identify and support the needs of these students. I suggest that students are asked to list all of the places they have lived on their application, or that a checkbox be added to the college or university application that defines what a third culture kid is, and ask the applicant to check the box if they think they might be a third culture kid. I would also suggest researching the definition of a third culture kid's ground, as described by James Peacock, so a better understanding of the foundation for one's identity and ability to be truly cross-culturally competent can be determined. Last, I'm going to leave you with a quote from Ruth Van Ryken. Each person in the world needs to be a part of the community, yet also recognized for the unique person he or she is. As our life stories are heard, affirmed, and then given a place to be used, the richness and sense of living fully as we were intended to live can only grow. Thank you so much for listening. I'm excited to answer any and all of your questions. All right, have a nice rest of your night.